You'll notice within this series of videos that I haven't been really playing up the Democratic side. I am a Democrat. I just am. I'm a liberal. I lean left. I do. But I've been speaking to Republicans, and the reason being is because I'm so sad that the Republican Party has just de-evolved into what it is now. My dad was a staunch Republican, still is. He still lives, but he was actually head of government communications for the western half of the United States. So growing up, my dad actually worked for 3 of our United States presidents. He worked for Nixon, Ford, and Reagan. And he was so happy that Carter was from the eastern half of the United States, and he didn't have to work for him. As a staunch Republican, he was happy he didn't have to work for Carter. I found that funny. And, but, you know, even though I didn't agree with everything my dad believed in, I always respected what he believed in. I did. You know, my dad was that 1950s type of Republican, that conservative, that saved their money and, you know, did everything. And things changed really within the Republican Party with Reagan, because Reagan got everybody to spend, and it went from a society who saved for their future. That's where my dad was. He was one who wouldn't spend a dime. He was a very well-off man. We lived in a very affluent neighborhood, and had this really nice house in this really nice neighborhood, but we were kind of seen as the poor kids in the rich neighborhood because my dad kind of held to that older belief. He his childhood was through part of the Depression, and he held on to those ideals throughout his life of save your pennies. And that's what he did. And that used to be that was the Republican ideal. Save your pennies. And then we got to Reagan, who I actually love Reagan, I got to meet Reagan. I got to shake his hand. I got to have dinner at his ranch. At 16, I was invited. My dad took me to have dinner at his ranch, a barbecue. And as Reagan landed in Marine One, I was the first to shake his hand. And that's an amazing thing for a 16-year-old. Even though I didn't hold my father's ideals, I respected them. I respected them. And so throughout this series, you'll notice that I've been speaking to Republicans. Because I'm so sad that those ideals are gone. They're just kind of gone. But they're not gone. I know they're not gone. There's a few that hold on to them. There's a few true Republicans out there. But unfortunately, they played down. They're so scared that they're going to lose what limited power they have left, because this fraction broke off. During the Obama McCain election really is kind of where it started. It's been de-evolving anyway. Like I said, Reagan, we went from the Nixon era. It was through the Nixon era and the Ford era through the 70s that it still was the constant idea that you didn't want debt. And then through the Reagan era, he changed all that. And we had the 80s of spend, 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 and credit, 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 and acquire debt, debt, debt. And, like I said, I loved Reagan. He was great because he inspired confidence. And so in that, he was a great president. He was also a great president because he pulled off the greatest bluff in history, which was Star Wars. Star Wars, oh my God, that was the greatest bluff in history. And Star Wars is what brought down the Soviet Union. Because he made them think it was real. He made them think it was real. That is so friggin' awesome. But things changed with Reagan. And we've been going downhill ever since. It's sad. It's really sad. So throughout the series, I've been talking to Republicans. I really have. You've got to change direction. Or you've got to rename the party. You've got to do something. Because even as a Democrat, I don't want our party to have total power. I don't want that. Because it's not good for our government. It's not good for our Constitution. It's not good for our liberty. For any power to have unilateral control. And so I want those Republicans, those true Republicans, not the lowest common denominator who is uneducated and, dumb and, willing to follow Trump and, elects President Bush and all these other things. I don't want them to rise up in power. I want the true Republicans back. I really do. Because the Republican Party has just de-evolved into something that is nothing but an obstacle. It's simply an obstacle for progress. And it never used to be that way. And I want the Republican Party back. Or I want the Republicans, the true Republicans, to change. Make yourself a new party. As Teddy Roosevelt tried to make a new party, he tried to make the Bull Moose Party in order to get reelected again under Republican ideals. Do something like that. True Republicans, become the Bull Moose. Bull Moose. That's cool. Screw the elephant. Become the Bull Moose. Isn't that good? But I would like to see those classic ideals back. And not the stupidity that is sickening our nation, that is poisoning our nation. I want to see back those ideals that I don't necessarily agree with, but I totally respect. I want to see that back. And I hope you can pull it off.